What if the single most important object in One Piece isn't a sword, a devil fruit, or even the One Piece treasure itself, but a simple straw hat? Luffy's straw hat might look ordinary at first glance, but its history reveals a chain of promises and legacies stretching across generations of the world's greatest pirates. And this chain didn't begin with Luffy at all. Before Luffy ever dreamed of becoming Pirate King, the straw hat sat on the head of Gol D. Roger, the man who first discovered the final island and forever changed the world. To Roger, it wasn't just an accessory, it was a part of his identity, a quiet marker of who he was as he carved his legend across the seas. When Roger's era came to an end, the hat passed into the hands of a boy who would later become one of the most feared and respected pirates alive, red-haired Shanks. The passing of the hat from Roger to Shanks wasn't documented in full detail, but the meaning behind it is unmistakable. Roger saw something in Shanks, just as Shanks would later see something in a young, reckless boy from East Blue. And that boy was Monkey D. Luffy. When Shanks handed the straw hat to Luffy, it wasn't just a gift, it was a promise. Luffy swore that one day he would return the hat to Shanks, but only after he became a great pirate. From that moment, the straw hat became Luffy's most precious treasure. It's easy to forget just how important the hat is to Luffy because he treats it so casually in day-to-day adventures. He throws himself into battles, dives into danger, and risks his life constantly. But when it comes to the hat, he's unshakably careful. He entrusts it only to people he trusts most, whether it was Nami during Arlong Park or Sanji during the Alabasta battle. And in those moments, the hat itself seems to become more than an object. It becomes a symbol of Luffy's dream, his will, and the future he's fighting for. Even the name of his crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, revolves around this simple item. Enemies and allies alike recognize Luffy instantly as Straw Hat Luffy, proving that the hat itself has become his identity. When people hear that name, they don't just think of one man, they think of a reckless, freedom-loving pirate who stands against impossible odds. And yet, the hat has also been a source of drama in some of One Piece's most emotional moments. During Marineford, when Luffy nearly lost everything, it was Shanks who ensured the straw hat was returned to him. That silent exchange between them reminded fans that this wasn't just clothing, it was destiny being handed back to its rightful owner. The story of the straw hat is already layered with meaning. It has moved from Roger to Shanks, from Shanks to Luffy, and perhaps one day it will pass on again. But the deeper question is this: is the hat simply a keepsake of promises, or is it part of something much bigger? Because in One Piece, nothing this important is ever just coincidence, and that's where the mystery begins. The straw hat isn't just a keepsake of promises, it embodies the very themes that drive One Piece as a story. Every time we see it on Luffy's head, Oda is reminding us of concepts that have been central to the series since Chapter 1. The first and most obvious is inherited will. In One Piece, dreams don't die with the person, they are passed on. Just like Roger's will inspired Shanks, Shanks' faith now lives on through Luffy. And every time Luffy wears that straw hat, we're reminded that his journey isn't just his own. He carries the ambitions of those who came before him, and he's paving the way for those who will come after. The straw hat itself becomes a quiet visual of this theme, showing us that the fire of freedom is never extinguished. It only changes hands. Then there's promise and legacy. When Shanks gave Luffy the hat, it was with the condition that Luffy would return it once he became a great pirate. That condition ties Luffy's dream directly to his possession of the hat. Losing the hat would mean breaking his promise, but keeping it safe while chasing his dream makes the straw hat a constant reminder of what he's working toward. It's a physical representation of his legacy in the making, one that began with Roger and will one day be cemented with Luffy's own name in history. The third theme is identity and recognition. In the world of One Piece, pirates are judged by their flags, their crews, and their reputations. For Luffy, the straw hat is his identity. It's why the crew is named after it, why the world government and his enemies call him Straw Hat Luffy, and why his wanted posters always highlight the hat. The hat is more recognizable than any scar, tattoo, or weapon. The second you see it, you know who it belongs to. And in a world where symbols can mean more than words, that recognition is everything. But these themes, inheritance, legacy, identity, are just the surface, because Oda never chooses symbols lightly. If the straw hat is meant to stand for all these things, why did he choose a straw hat of all objects? Why not something more grand? A crown? A sword? A relic? The answer lies not just in the story of One Piece, but in the cultural meaning of straw hats across history. And once you understand that, the choice of a straw hat suddenly looks a lot less random and a lot more intentional. On the surface, a straw hat is just a practical object. Farmers wear them to block the sun, fishermen use them to shield themselves at sea, and travelers have carried them across dusty roads for centuries. But if you dig a little deeper, straw hats have carried a much greater symbolic weight in cultures around the world. In many places, the straw hat has always been linked to humility and survival. Unlike a jeweled crown or a polished helmet, a straw hat is made from nature itself, woven from grass, reeds, or palm. It isn't a symbol of wealth, but of work. Farmers bend over rice fields under their wide-brimmed kasa in Japan. Laborers in Southeast Asia shield themselves from the tropical sun with conical hats. These hats are the clothing of common people, those who live closest to the earth and fight each day to survive. In Japan, the tradition goes even further. Pilgrims and monks wear straw hats called amagaso when traveling. To them, the hat isn't just protection, it's a badge of journey, of wandering in search of spiritual growth. It signals movement, a passage from one stage of life to another. That idea of the hat as a companion in the journey feels deeply connected to Luffy's story. He doesn't wear a crown because he's not born into royalty. He wears a straw hat because he's a traveler, a dreamer, someone on a quest larger than himself. And if you look outside of Asia, the meaning remains surprisingly consistent. In Lesotho, the Mokorotlo straw hat became such an iconic symbol of identity that it appears on their national flag. For them, it represents unity, belonging, and pride in their culture. In Europe, peasant hats carried much the same meaning: connection to the land, the people, and survival itself. Across the world, straw hats are never just fashion. They're markers of who someone is and where they belong. Think about how different that is from a crown or helmet. A crown says, "I rule over you." A helmet says, "I fight to conquer you." But a straw hat says, "I live among you. I endure with you." That's the kind of symbol Luffy embodies. He doesn't rule through fear or bloodline. He inspires through freedom and shared struggle. His hat marks him not as a king above others, but as one of them. And when you see it through that lens, Oda's choice feels deliberate. A straw hat represents the people. It's humble, it's practical, it's timeless. And when a humble object like that becomes the symbol of the Pirate King's dream, it suddenly takes on a weight far heavier than its simple weave. But this cultural meaning is just the first layer. Because in One Piece itself, the straw hat carries mysteries that go beyond culture or symbolism. Mysteries tied to Imu, the Void Century, and perhaps even the One Piece treasure itself. And that's where things take a much darker turn. For most of the series, the straw hat feels like nothing more than Luffy's treasure. But Oda has dropped enough hints to show us there's something much bigger lurking behind it. The most chilling clue came at Mary Joie, deep inside the Holy Land, where the 5 elders revealed a chamber hidden in ice. And in that chamber rested something no one expected: a giant straw hat. This discovery changed the way fans looked at Luffy's hat forever. Up until that point, the straw hat seemed like a simple heirloom, passed down from Roger to Shanks to Luffy. But the Mary Joie reveal suggested something much older, something that connects the straw hat to the Void Century, the secrets of Joy Boy, and even the hidden ruler of the world, Imu. Why would the most powerful figure in the world preserve a giant straw hat in a frozen vault? And why does it look exactly like Luffy's? Theories spread fast. Some believe that the giant straw hat once belonged to Joy Boy himself, the mysterious figure tied to the ancient kingdom and the will of D. Others suggest it's a kind of relic, preserved as a reminder of history that the world government wants to bury but can't completely destroy. Still others wonder if it's not just a relic at all, but a symbol of power, a sign tied to the prophecy of the dawn of the world. And this isn't the only mystery. Even the origin of Luffy's own hat is uncertain. Was Roger really the first to wear it? Or did he inherit it from someone else? Could it be an object that has been passed down secretly for centuries, carrying not just promises, but actual history within its weave? Oda has never confirmed, but he has carefully avoided giving us a definitive origin story, meaning the truth could be far more explosive than we imagine. When you connect the dots, the straw hat suddenly looks like more than a keepsake. It may be a container of will itself, a vessel through which dreams, promises, and destinies are carried across eras. Roger's dream passed into Shanks, and Shanks gave that dream to Luffy. And waiting at the end of the story could be the reveal that this very object has existed since the Void Century, surviving through hidden hands until it reached the man destined to wear it. That's why the Mary Joie hat is so important. If the world government is preserving it, it means they know exactly what it stands for. They aren't afraid of a hat. They're afraid of the symbol it represents. Because in One Piece, symbols are powerful enough to move nations. But the connection between the straw hat and the Void Century isn't just about relics. It ties into something even bigger: the will of D, the prophecy of the dawn, and the idea that this small, fragile object may represent the rising sun itself. As soon as the giant straw hat was revealed in the icy vault under Mary Joie, fans began whispering, could this hat represent more than legacy or promise? Could it symbolize something cosmic, something like the sun, a new dawn, or even the birth of a new age? The more you trace the clues, the more the sun-dawn symbolism feels like a hidden pulse behind Luffy's journey. First, there's the visual cue. The straw hat is a circle. Its brim radiates outward like rays of light. The red band around its crown can evoke the idea of a horizon or rising sun. And when you pair that with Luffy's color motifs, his straw hat, his fiery spirit, Suddenly, the imagery aligns. Luffy might not just be a pirate chasing treasure, he might be the herald of a world's new morning. Then there's the Dawn motif in One Piece. Numerous fan theories point to Romance Dawn, the title of Luffy's origin story, as more than just a name. It hints at the idea of a new beginning, a fresh era. Some speculate the will of D is intrinsically tied to that dawn. People bearing D are destined to usher in the next age. The straw hat, passed from Roger to Shanks to Luffy, becomes the visual standard of that transition. Rumors suggest that the giant hat in Mary Joie is tied to the Void Century and holds relic power over eras. Imagine it, while the world's rulers keep secrets deep underground and in frozen vaults, they safeguard this hat. Not because it's pretty, but because it's a sign of something much bigger. The way they protect it hints that they fear what it symbolizes, the dismantling of the old order, the dawn of the new. In some theories, the straw hat was more than just Roger's. Some suggest even Roger inherited it from a previous age, making it older than any recorded time. If that's true, then Luffy is not the third in line. He's the continuation of something ancient. The hat could be a relic preserved through generations, its meaning evolving, but its core purpose enduring, to signal change. Then there's how the straw hat functions in narrative moments. All these threads, the shape, the colors, the naming conventions, the hidden hat in Maria Joie, tie to one idea. The straw hat isn't just a marker of identity. It's the banner of a new era being born. It's the sun rising after a long, dark night. And if that's the case, then Luffy carrying the hat is less about status and more about purpose. He is the living vessel for the dawn. And that brings us to the greatest speculation. If Luffy truly is the harbinger of a new age, will the straw hat survive him? Or will it be passed on again? As the symbol of hope, of inheritance, of revolution, the sun can rise only when the old darkness fades, but it also needs a successor to light its flame again. What's next? In the final sections, I'll walk through the remaining mysteries, the unanswered questions, and build us toward a conclusion. That this little hat is the key not just to Luffy's legacy, but to the fate of the entire world. Every great symbol in One Piece carries weight because of what it represents across generations. The straw hat is no exception. It moved from Roger to Shanks to Luffy. But that begs the ultimate question. What happens when Luffy's story reaches its end? Will the straw hat vanish with him? Or will it be passed once again, continuing the chain of destiny? Fans have debated this for years. Some argue the straw hat dies with Luffy, that it burns, breaks, or is destroyed in the final battle as a way of signaling the close of an era. In this reading, the straw hat is Luffy's alone, inseparable from his spirit, and once his journey ends, so does the hat's purpose. The symbolism would be powerful, the end of the D's struggle, the completion of a story that spanned centuries, but there's another, equally compelling possibility, that the straw hat will be inherited again. Just as Shanks entrusted it to a boy he believed in, Luffy could hand it down to the next dreamer, the next person destined to carry the fire forward. Imagine the poetic symmetry if Luffy, the man who promised to surpass Roger, entrusted his most precious treasure to someone who vowed to surpass him. The cycle would continue, echoing across time. And who would that heir be? Some point to Usopp's son, carrying on the dream of courage that his father embodied. Others suggest it could go to Shanks' daughter Uda if she reemerges in the canon. A bolder theory ties it to the future pirate king of the next era, perhaps a child of the Straw Hats, or even someone outside their crew entirely, proving that the spirit of freedom doesn't belong to one bloodline or one crew, but to the world itself. There's also the radical take. What if the straw hat is never worn again, but enshrined as a relic, placed where all can see it, not hidden away like the world government once did? This would flip the meaning. The hat would no longer be the secret crown of chosen heirs, but the open symbol of freedom for all. Instead of one man carrying it, the world itself would carry the idea it represents. And maybe that's the truest inheritance. Because at its heart, the straw hat isn't just straw and thread. It's the physical embodiment of belief. Belief in dreams, in freedom, in the dawn of a new age. Whether it rests on the head of another pirate or sits enshrined for the world to admire, its final purpose will be the same: to inspire the next generation, to chase what seems impossible. So, the fate of the straw hat might not just close Luffy's journey, it could mark the start of an entirely new one. The kind of ending that feels less like closure and more like passing the torch, the eternal flame of the Pirate King's dream.